Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the August 24th meeting of the North Idaho College Board of Trustees. As we begin all of our meetings, would you please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a quorum. There are no specific guests that have been identified as per introduction. And the next item on our agenda is to welcome our new president, Rick McLennan. Most of you have met him. Most of you have had an opportunity to spend some time with him. But we have the fortune of these meetings being broadcast to the community at large, and many people in the community have not had an opportunity to meet him. And so what I'd like to do is take a couple minutes and just introduce him in terms of some of the history that he brings to us. And then I'm going to invite each one of the trustees to take the opportunity, if they wish, to welcome him in their own way. We're really fortunate to have Rick as our new president. He brings a tremendous amount of experience. He came to us from Garrett College in Maryland, where he spent 16 years as a president. And if you went through his resume, you could see that there were a number of issues and a number of developing programs and that sort of thing that he was instrumental in developing and bringing along. And it's that experience that he brings to us. But he and his wife, Teresa, are not strangers to the Northwest. Teresa, I believe, was born in Pullman. Was that right? That's correct. Rick got his undergraduate degree in Oregon. In fact, you got your master's degree also, I think, in Oregon, and his doctorate degree in Maryland. And he also taught at Olympia College in Washington as Vice President of Student Services. Interestingly, we may have had presidents before who started their educational careers in a community college, but he did. He started out in the community college while he was in the military and moved on and completed his education in these other institutions. Actually, when we hired Rick, we kind of double dipped a little bit because we got Teresa too. And she is now the executive director for the North Idaho Centennial Trail Commission, or Foundation, excuse me. Yeah, but she brought also experience from doing that in Maryland, where she was an executive director for the Trail Commission there. So they have already actually gotten themselves into the community in a very, very intense and deep way, and we welcome them. And I would like to encourage anybody who'd like to say something further. Ron?
I had the opportunity to participate as a co-chair of the selection committee, and clearly that Rick was the first choice of almost everybody in the room. The private sector especially saw his sense of humor, his character, everything that they would say would be a great college president for a community college. But it was also, he won the hearts of the faculty by the way he carried himself and the way he talked about his success and talked about a collaborative effort of how he plans on running this institution. Since he's been the president, I got a chance to have a 2-hour lunch with him, and I got to know him even a little bit closer, more personal. What a man. And all I can do is tell you that this community is blessed to have Rick as a leadership here, and I think you're going to see some great things with him at this institution.
Judy?
Sure. Welcome, Rick and Teresa, because I had the happy opportunity to go back and do the site visit back to Maryland. And some of the things I heard and saw for myself were the fact that the geography of Maryland is similar to Idaho, and that he was in Western, right close to the border. I flew into Pittsburgh, rented a car, drove through West Virginia and into Maryland. So right away, I thought, he understands the geography of Idaho, which will be equally challenging opportunity to help our state pull together, and he worked well in Maryland making that happen. I had a chance to visit with county commissioners, local business people, school district folk. The only thing wrong with my visit was I had to assure them that although I was doing a site visit, please don't shoot the messenger. We were trying to get him, and we did, and we're glad to have him here. Welcome, Rick.
Chair. I just want to certainly say welcome to Rick and Teresa. It's been fun to get to know both of you. I want to tell you, Rick, that we're excited about what you bring to the table. I also, though, want to tell you that President Dunlop did leave you with a gift, and that is a top-notch administrative team and faculty and staff. So I think you're going to have a wonderful career here, and welcome.
Todd?
I'm not sure what left to be said, other certainly welcome. I think you have a lot of professionalism and experience, and you're also a guy I think that a person can have a conversation and sit down and have a beer with. So I welcome both aspects. So welcome aboard.
Well, Rick, welcome to you and Teresa. And Teresa's here tonight. She's hiding way in the back. Say hello to everybody. Welcome back home.
Thank you.
Back to the Northwest.
Good to be here. I understand we start all board meetings this way?
No. This is it. They get tough after this. Our next agenda item is a review of the minutes. Are there any corrections, additions to the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes will be accepted as presented. No one has signed up for public comment, so we'll, I got another one here, thanks. We'll move on to celebrating success. Pat O'Halloran and Evan Moore. And,
Thank you.
yes,
Vice President.
it's on the aerospace camp.
These are the high flyers.
Yes, the high flyers.
There you go.
Vice Presidents, Board of Trustees, hello. President McCullough, welcome. Your first Board of Trustees meeting, excellent. Here to really outline what we've done this summer in our summer bridge program of NIC Aerospace, Aero Camp 16. This was a brainchild of Cassie Silvis, our Dean, CTE, and she came to us 2 years ago and planted this seed. And it kind of grew into, maturated into what we have here before you today. I just show a little bit of what we accomplished this summer. We really focused on the full college experience. Again, this is sponsored by Idaho P-Tech Network. J.A. Catherine Alberson's foundation paid for this fully. They support their students all the way through their junior year through a technical certificate or Associate of Applied Science in one of a technical career field. One of them being aerospace. We saw a great opportunity. Cassie Silvis again enlightened us to a bridge program and kind of developed it as it is. What is AeroCamp? Based on an all-inclusive summer program structured for dual credit students enrolled in NIC Aerospace Composite Technology. They didn't just show up to the door unexpected. They had gone through prerequisites, blueprint reading, safety, intro to composites, kind of familiarized themselves with the intricacies of what the industry expects of them. They hadn't had any lab experience at this point. They hadn't been able to touch fiberglass or put resin to carbon fiber. This is an opportunity for them to come in and actually do that. We house that for them here at Aerospace Center of Excellence. Right into Trevor Budge, our instructor's head. This is usually what he's thinking about at all times, his class. So I figured it's apropos to put it right in his ear. 'Cause talk to him, that's all he really knows. So.
Within AeroCamp, so in the P-Tech Foundation, has done a great job.
Would you come forward?
Sorry,
Your voice
Pat
went
O'Halloran, the Director of Vero Aerospace Center. Didn't realize that was the mic. It's timely, the Aerospace Center being a relatively new endeavor, and the grant mandate within that to make some online classes segued beautifully with what Outreach has been doing, especially for dual credit students. Perhaps not the original intention when written in the grant, but it sure did work out well, making this more accessible by high school students, as you'll be hearing more. So the students, as Evan said, Took at least 3, maybe more classes in the lead up while still at their high school to qualify to become the few that came to Aero Camp 15 and now came to Aero Camp 16. And as I'll get to boast about later, the way that pipeline is working out so well for us. But this works out to be their first hands-on experience with what they've been teased with so far back at high school.
Very good. And into one of our students' heads, Ron Corn, I'll introduce Ron here in a little bit. He's our very, very special guest. For 10 nights and 11 days, students immerse themselves in the curriculum of composite fabrication methods and applications. This is the real first step to really getting into composites, figuring out if this is something that they have a hand for, if they can stand the smell of resin and catalyst and they don't set their parts on fire. We've had some interesting experiences, all safe and all fun and
Thankfully
all
not with
good
this group.
tensions. Yes, not in this group. We had a really great, strong group this year. And P-TECH did a great job of vetting their students coming up. We had students from CUNA, Twin Falls, Pocatello, Sandpoint, and Kellogg, all over. Enriching, enlightening experience for everybody. Why do we do this? We wanted to make this camp as dynamic and interactive and versatile as possible. A lot of these students are first generation. They don't have the support at home, or at least parents don't have the wherewithal on how to get them to college, tell them about their experiences when they went to college, because it just wasn't possible. So we felt it very important that we give them a chance to envision themselves in a college setting as close as we can in the summer session as possible. So we were meticulous in planning and making sure that they had exposure to the sub, to dormitories, of course, and all of NIC has to offer, including Coeur d'Alene, which, as you know, and President McCullough found out real quick, is the lake. It's a great selling point, so we exploited the heck out of it during camp, and I know you have already here in your stay thus far. So we really wanted to expose them to just as much as possible here in the local area. Self-efficacy is a big one too. This is the first time that these students have been away from home and away from their parents, and give them a little bit of credibility and courage, and know that they can actually sleep away from home and be, I don't know, 700-800 miles away from their bed, sleep in a strange room with someone that they don't know, and integrate themselves within the community. Happened very, very quickly.
For some students, we found this opportunity to travel might have been the first time on an airplane.
That's right.
So takes them from that experience and background and throw them in with our instructors who, in the context of the composites course, are getting the manufacturing piece of some of what's relative to the industry, but the depth in our instructors and the interaction. And in the past, we've been able to do industry tours. Last year, we were able to go to the tower, Spokane. So we're trying to give them the industry as much of a snapshot as we can.
That's the team building activities. We had the ropes course, of course. We had icebreakers. There was some really social experiments that P-TECH had put on that they were watching closely with the interaction between the students. Again, this is behavioral experiments extraordinaire here. This is fantastic because this is rich for learning for us too, not just for the students. Beach fun, barbecues, we did it all. My biggest focus here was that they wouldn't leave hungry and they wouldn't leave bored. For what I learned from last year, Aero Camp 15, is the fact that we did extend it out quite a bit longer, another 3-4 days. And they said, we just needed some downtime. We were either in a kayak or we were downtown or jumping off Tubbs Hill. We just wanted to play on our electronics. So this year we abbreviated it a little bit and gave them some downtime and some video games, and they seem to be a lot happier about that. So here you see one of our perennials with outdoor leadership. They love the sailing, and they learn how to sail. A lot of these kids hadn't been on a sailboat before at all. I mean, CUNA, I don't know where the closest body of water is. So put wheels on it, maybe go out in the desert. But it was really a highlight. The kids, their faces and the smiles that they exude after they learn how to sail. just a part of the experience in itself.
Also helps with the wind, demonstration of wind and the power of wind, right?
That's right. Oh, we all tie it into there. And they're on fiberglass pontoons, right? Okay. So, oh yeah, no. We could justify it anyway.
So to our experience so far, I'll say the Aerospace Center has certainly benefited. Again, as a new program and getting the word out that we're even here, what this effort to spread across statewide, not just across the northern region, we're getting at least 8 or 9 students a year so far in these dual credit classes, from back at their home high school. This fall, we have 5 dual credit freshmen. Something I'm pretty excited about is the fact that from the Aero Camp 15 crowd, I now have 3 of them this fall as full-time students. So they're ahead of the game, taking 1 class or more, well, several. They've got at least 8 credits, most of them. So they're that much closer to the finish line. They like what they've seen, enough to come to town and stay. So I hope this keeps going.
Without further ado, our star of the show, truly, is one of our Aero Campers in Aero Camp 16, Ron Korn. He's going to be a senior next year. He's actually a junior at the very moment. So I aged him because he is so mature. He brought so much to the camp. His enthusiasm was electric. Everyone fed off of him. His parts, don't tell your fellow campers, were top-notch. And Trevor Budge, our instructor, said he was one of the best in class. So please, I wanted Ron to come here and I wanted him to just share a little bit about his experience that he had at Aero Camp. Come on in, Ron.
Okay, so yeah, at least Evan emailed me and said he wanted me to speak to you guys about, about college living, the educational experience I had, and kind of also, how this camp has impacted my future plans. So first off, I'd like to say that, at least as far as college life goes, I felt that it definitely maybe debunked some stereotypes and yet proved them at the same time. Because there was one night where P-Tech thought it was a great idea to go to triple play the night before our first test. So definitely proving that college late night studying before the test. So yeah, at least in the educational experience was, it's the first time I touched any type of composite work ever. First piece didn't turn out so great, but for my first one, I'd say it's not too bad. And as far as impact, it's definitely helped me out with my future plans. This November, I'm hoping to work with one of the Sandpoint Aerospace Clubs that I am a president of. We're going to, hopefully in November, start building the first home-built aircraft from 1907. You could actually get the plans to build this aircraft out of Popular Mechanics. It is the 1907 Santos Dumont Dimensile. So, and our plans is to build it completely out of carbon fiber and do some flight testing on it, and hopefully maybe found out what caused Santos Dumont to crash this plane in 1910.
Find out earlier than he did.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. But I won't be flight testing. So.
Very good. We'll have a little spot for, thank you, Ron. We'll have a spot for question and answer after if you have any questions for Ron too. So. Camp Blueprint, so since we've been through this twice already, and we'll be already working on Aero Camp 17, Cassie's certainly encouraged to expand our camp prowess with possible applications in auto collision repair, carpentry, welding, diesel, business. We have it. We know it works. We've had success. Why not blow it out? Let's grow it. Let's make this a mainstay in a bridge program that NIC is proud of, and we can facilitate students throughout the summer and funnel them in the very next semester. You'll be hearing more about this as the more president's cabinets and Board of Trustees meetings come about. Cost of AR camp, I thought I'd throw this in here a little bit, just to, you know, it's not, it's a little complex. But there is the tuition, housing, facilities, outdoor pursuits, transportation, food service, T-shirt, chaperones. And I wanted to give you an idea. I thought the question would come up as far as cost is concerned. And we're looking at about $1,400 a student. And that's malleable. I mean, we can shave off time at the end or in the beginning, cut down on services. And the more students we have, the more cost effective it is too. So at the moment, obviously, this was paid through grant funds. So this didn't come out of the pockets of our students. But eventually, we plan that it just may. So this is on a 10-night, 11-day stay, about $140 a day for the full experience, all the tools, the sailing, the dormitory, the food, all the ancillary experiences that we're giving them. That's a pretty darn good deal, I think. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for myself, Pat or Ron?
Any questions? Ron?
Ooh, I've got a question. Ron, get up to the microphone, Ron.
Okay.
Tell me who that guy is that's got the camera on you right now.
That's my father.
You know what? I'm telling you right now, I want you to look at his face. I watched him the whole time with his getting a little emotional, filming his son, that some people go a whole lifetime without seeing that much pride in a father for what you've accomplished. Well done, son.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
Yes,
Christie.
I want to go to aerospace camp.
Our first 17 camper.
Yeah, and cool T-shirts.
Thank you.
No, this is just incredible. What a great thing. Did you say the second year?
Yes, that's correct. Yes.
This is fabulous, and I love the idea of branching into the other areas. And so kudos to all of you. That's just wonderful. Love hearing this kind of thing.
Thank you.
Really like this T-shirt.
Anyone else have any comments?
Christie said it.
Ron, let me ask you, have you signed up for a dual credit program, or?
Yes, actually, right now I am completing Aero 150, the CNC basics.
And you're going to do that in your senior year also?
I don't know. I'm kind of running out of dual credit classes to take.
Oh, yeah. All right, good. Well, congratulations. And congratulations on the program. You know, as everybody knows, I think the challenge, of education is to get people interested in education. And things like what you're doing, and you're carrying, your experiences back to your classmates and that sort of thing, and helping get them interested in education, because we hear from all segments of industry and business that they want educated people in the future, and we have to get people in this state interested in the concept of education so they'll come and we can all get prepared for the future. So thank you very much for this program. It's really a great step in that direction, and I hope we are able to expand it. Thank you. Good. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you.
We now move on to the constituent reports. Actually, Sean wanted to go first because he has a boat ride he's supposed to go to. I thought maybe we could put him last and make him worry a little bit, but
Swim to the boat, Sean.
go ahead. Sean Collins.
Good evening, trustees, president's cabinet, and guests here tonight. It's good to be back. I'm glad the fall semester has started. I got to spend my entire summer here, but it's good to be back. I like it when the campus is actually full of students. I feel like life returns to campus. Student government just returned last Monday, so we were back in full. We did a full week of training. One of those days was a full raft trip, so I don't know how much. There's training in there. After that, we've done some work on essentially we've been working on training all the new student government members on how our budget works, how our process works, and what they can do in order to represent their constituent groups. We've met with various individuals. We've had Rick already join us. We had a good meeting with him. And we got to meet with Graydon as well. And we'll invite the rest of President's Cabinet as well, guys. You'll get to come out. And we are also, I'm doing interviews. We have one spot left on student government, and I'm doing interviews this week, and I hope to fill that position. And that's my report.
Any questions? Boy, you're free to go to your boat ride, it looks like.
Everyone have a good night.
Our next report is from Staff Assembly. Teresa.
Good evening, everybody. I will be brief because we didn't really have a staff assembly meeting in July. We had the staff assembly picnic, which was wonderful. We do that every year, as you know. Our first regular meeting is going to be held September 8th, so we're looking forward to that. Already met with the executive committee, and we sent out a survey to all the staff and asked for ideas and their thoughts on staff assembly, maybe some topics that we could do, or maybe a different structure they would like to see. So we're going to be going over that information and putting together the rest of the meetings for the year. Of course, our first one, we're going to have President McClellan come and introduce himself to everybody that maybe hasn't already met him, and carry on from there. That's all.
Great. Any questions or comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next report is Faculty Assembly. Jeff Carr.
Thank you, Chair Howard, NIC's remaining esteemed trustees, President McClellan, our distinguished vice presidents, deans, constituency leaders, and all those in attendance either in this room or watching via recording. You wouldn't do so if you didn't care about quality in education. My name is Jeff Carr. I have the honor of serving as the new chair of the Faculty Assembly. I am the sole representative of the journalism program, so if I do my job right, I will be concise and informative. I have little to report. The faculty welcomed students back this week, and I, for one, can say I'm pretty excited about this semester. I'm sure my colleagues feel the same way as well. Faculty Assembly met last week. We had the opportunity to meet with our new president, who expressed his eagerness to work with us, or really anyone for that matter. He's been very open as he learns about the intricacies of our institution. Afterwards, the Assembly discussed policy number 3.02.20, specifically about doctoral credit PDUs. We decided to form an ad hoc committee to review this policy. We also had a brief presentation about the General Education Matriculation, or GEM. We were invited to review the 6 GEM outcomes and offer any feedback as we move forward with our new General Education format. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Great. Yep, thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Well, we're getting through this quickly tonight, aren't we? All right. Thank you very much. Next report is from the Senate. Josh?
To go along with the same theme, my report will be quick as well because the Senate does not meet over the summer. So our first Senate meeting will be September 15th, but we're kind of in the beginning planning stages of how our Senate year we want it to look. We're going to first start out kind of with a Senate orientation to orient those that are new to Senate this year and talk about kind of ways that we can kind of fulfill our charge as the Senate and how we can get our constituents, the staff, faculty, and students all involved with the whole process of the participatory governance process. So we're looking forward to the upcoming year ahead and look forward to working with you as well. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Thank you. That concludes the constituent reports. Our next report is the President's report, and we have President Rick McClellan. McClellan.
McClellan.
Right, we got to make sure we get the A in there, right?
Save the A.
Right.
Well, good evening, everybody. I guess I have a few updates I'm going to have some of my executive team folks provide you, but I have a few comments to get us started. First of all, I want to thank the trustees, each of you, for the process that you went through to get me here. There are only 30,000 people in Garrett County. I'm pretty sure Judy talked to every one of them.
I tried to listen.
when she was there.
Great fun.
It was a very thorough process, a very engaging process, and to cap that off, I couldn't be more pleased with the way you've all welcomed me and my wife Teresa to the community. So thank you. Thank you for those warm, nice comments during the beginning of the meeting. I also want to acknowledge the executive team folks who are here tonight. You mentioned what a great team I've inherited. Not only have I inherited a great team, but I'm also in the envious position to build on some great work that's been done by that team under the leadership of Joe Dunlap. Joe and I have talked quite a bit in the transition. We have a lot of parallels in the way we think about things in community colleges, and I couldn't be more thrilled and excited to step in and start building on that work. But I especially want to acknowledge the 4 people at this table, and there's 3 more out in the audience who are my executive team, and there's 1 more sitting at that little table over there, Shannon. They have just been terrific, and if you think you have good leadership, you're right, you do, and we're going to do great things together, and I'm excited to get underway with them. We're already underway. In the past, just a little more than a month, we've been getting out and about the community and the region. I've attended, I know I'm going to miss a bunch of these, but a number of Rotary events, chamber events, before chamber events, after chamber events, chamber events. I'm speaking at the chamber, the Coeur d'Alene Chamber in September. Been connected with Jobs Plus and their executive committee and attended a meeting there with, also went down and met with tribal leaders and also attended the Chief Morris Antelope dedication ceremony. Have met, I think, almost all but one of the Idaho college and university presidents, and as well as state board staff. Attended the state board meeting in Pocatello earlier this month. Met with the governor and the governor's staff, with JFAC, for those of you that's the Joint Finance staff at the state. I've toured the Lewis Clark State College and University of Idaho space here approximate on our campus. I've met with Kootenai Health leadership. We held a legislative reception last evening and met with a good bit of the local legislative delegation, have met individually with a few of those folks as well. Have attended a number of foundation events and met individually with foundation and collectively with foundation board members, and will continue to do that. Have met with faculty, as already stated, with student leaders. I have prowled around campus and burst into work areas and scared people who didn't know who I was, but we got everybody calmed down. But I guess the basic, I've also welcomed 60 community college presidents, I think my first day on the job, who were here attending a leadership conference at the resort. And I also presented at that conference, and the topic was on presidential leadership change. Wow. Which was, I think that's why they asked me to help with that, given what we were going through. But the theme there is that have made it a commitment with the support of my executive team and others at the college to really make it a point to get out and get to know this community and the people in it. This will not stop. We're probably maybe a tenth of the way through this schedule of trying to do that, so lots more to come. So again, we're really getting my feet on the ground, and Mark Browning has been instrumental in helping set up a lot of these meetings, so thank you, Mark. Okay, so a couple of updates. Graydon, you're going to give us an update on enrollment.
Thank you very much, President McLennan. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm pleased to present you with this information. You might recall that our official reporting date is not until October 15th, so this is just a quick update for you. This was as of Monday, our first day of classes. We projected budget on a 6% decline in enrollment. In fact, on Monday, we were at 5.47% down in headcount, 5.8% down in FTE, so outperforming what our projection was at that point, anticipating that those numbers will get better over the next couple of weeks as dual credit numbers continue to come in and students are enrolled in some of the waitlisted classes and choose other classes to add to their existing enrollment. Of those numbers, you should know that dual credit is up 8% FTE. CTE is up 5% in FTE. Those are the two largest increases for us. I want to acknowledge the work of a whole bunch of people over the course of the summer. We aimed a lot of our efforts at continuing students who were here last spring and were eligible to enroll this fall and hadn't yet in July, and so a number of people were reaching out that audience, over 2,300 students, and working real actively with them to get them to enroll yet this fall. Within the last month, there was a real directed effort at new students coming here as well that included the usual work by our advising department, but also drop-in advising and the different divisions, whether it was CTE, whether it was nursing and health sciences, or just our transfer students, real directed work at those new students who were eligible to attend this fall. We believe that made a huge difference in bumping up our numbers by a couple % here just in the last few weeks. So we're really proud and thankful for those efforts of all those people. Sean's left, but you can tell him I said this. Sean did work for us all summer and was really instrumental in being a part of helping to register students, worked all our orientation events, everything that we did, and but he's right on the front lines of being an invested partner with all of us. So that's our update for now.
Thank you. And Chris, you're going to give an update on the CTE building?
The CTE facility is a work in progress. It's going really, really well. Today, the lifts are being installed, furniture is being installed in all the classrooms. We've made great progress on the main academic area of the building and the manufacturing area of the building. And so at this time, we have a plan in place to relocate all the faculty, the staff, and the students in the week of September the 6th into the manufacturing area. And we will continue working on transportation and the diesel, the automotive collision, and the automotive tech areas, and move them later on the week of September 25th. The K-Tech team has been incredible to work with. They're actually helping us out. Students are taking their welding labs there now. And so there's so many high points in this project. And so when the plan gets off track a little bit, I do want to highlight the high point that K-Tech and this partnership is exactly what we all have hoped it would be, and I think what your vision is, and that's that we'll collaboratively work together, and they have been incredible. The CTE students, the CTE faculty have been flexible beyond belief. Monday was a fun day, but students were very excited about moving into the new facility, and we continue to work tirelessly to get in as fast as possible.
Great, thank you. And just to follow up on that, we do have the ribbon cutting event that we will be okay with on September 28th. And just a little update on the building, the future capital campaign. As you recall, the goal is to raise $5 million for the purpose of completing the CTE facility, creating an equipment replacement fund and an endowment fund for CTE program needs, and to create student scholarship opportunities, endowed student scholarship opportunities to support CTE students. I'm pleased to report that over $4.3 million has been raised to date, and the public phase of the campaign is being launched and will run through the next academic year. And then finally, I think we're just one more update on the Summer Splash.
Thank you, President McLennan and members of the board. For the 7th consecutive summer, the college hosted Cecil's Summer Splash, which started as kind of a social media event for incoming students as a way to get them on campus during the summer, have a little fun, get to know campus, and not be so intimidated on the first day of class when they would arrive about a month later. We had our highest attendance ever. We had over 100 prospective and new incoming students attend. Multiple departments and divisions across all areas of campus were very instrumental in helping. The highlight this year was an element that we added, that if you attended and you stayed for the entire activity, which included barbecue and all kinds of beach fun, well, there would be a drawing for 5 $1,000 each scholarships, thanks to the foundation. And we were able to award those to students who were very much in need. Made a huge difference, and to be able to see the reaction on those students' face, and I'm sure of their folks when they got back home, was really the highlight of what we were able to do to really make a difference for these students. So.
That concludes my report.
Good. Are there any questions, Ron?
A question for Graydon. You gave an estimated of a 6% reduction in student count. What is expected at the community colleges nationally?
Thank you, Trustee Nielsen. We're about in that range. Checking with counterparts here in the state, they're about at the same place in terms of community colleges. And as you look nationally, we're about exactly in that range. And that 6% is real close to what everybody's projecting, and that's about where everybody's performing at this point. So really no surprises in where we're at. I think we're going to do a little bit better than that yet, so we'll feel good about that.
Thank you.
Yes, Todd.
Those numbers sure sound a lot better than the preliminary numbers that we heard that were in the upper 7s going to 8. So yeah, you did trim a full, what, 2% off of there about, didn't you? Yeah, well done.
Great, and just following up on that, CWI has had this huge growth pattern because of the insatiable thirst for going to school down there at community colleges. Has their enrollment leveled off this year, if you know? Because they were growing a lot fast. They were still growing while we were leveling off and shrinking. What are they doing now?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. It started to level off a bit last year as well. There was an unmet need that initially buoyed their numbers quite high. But recently, last year, they were, I think, just pretty close to static. And this year, they're about 5% down at this point, too. So they're experiencing much the same that we are, too, and anticipate they will follow that same trend with the rest of us now that the initial need was met.
Great, thank you. Any further questions or comments with the President's report? No? Hearing none, we'll move on to the KTEC report. Judy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to defer to Ron first, because this is your last chance to report from KTEC as a board member, so why don't you lead off and I'll fill in.
Well, I'm still going to be on the KTEC board, and thank you for the recognition, Chris, for the support of KTEC and the team there. They're as excited to be there as hopefully that the NIC is to be there. And I think that sometimes the end justifies the means as we look back to those fights that we had about location. And then when we now see the building erect, we see what it's going to be and what it's going to mean to this community. It was the right decision. And so one of the things that we look forward to is dual enrollment between both KTEC and NIC. It would not happen because now the kid can go directly after school, walk across the parking lot, and finish on his continued education. We had a little bit of a shakeup this last month with Tim Fortune, who was our executive director there. He turned his resignation in. He was highly recruited by the Technical Education Center in Spokane, and they offered him a lot more money. He lives in Spokane, and he regretfully turned his resignation. We've now since moved in an interim executive director that will be just filling in for the year, and his name's Kobe Matilia. Matilia.
Close enough.
I can see even as how it's written, I have trouble understanding it. So, but he was the head of the construction. He applied for the job at the time that we selected Tim Fortune, and so he has an interest of running that level. And Jason Green, who is our assistant to the director, is going to be there as well and help with the transition. So we think it's going to be a smooth transition. They're anticipating full enrollment at the school for next year. They continue to grow and to raise the level of awareness, and we have a couple of changes. But one of the things that you find out, I'm sure it's at the college as well, is that when you have nurses, you have welders, you have machinists, and you have mechanics that can make more money than a teacher can, it's hard to get them to leave their industry and come and take a pay cut. And it's usually people as they get to their twilight years to want to give back to their community, but you only want to give back for so long before you get in a motorhome and go south for the winter. So we've had a couple turnover there, but everything seems to be alive and well. We have a new representative from the Lakeland School District, her first meeting today, so a little bit of a shakeup, but compared to this college, it's a pretty simple hour, 10-minute board meeting, get done, get out of there. So it's going to be nice to cut my my board time down in probably 1/4. So
Just in addition to that, thanks, Ron, 'cause I think you covered it all, other than as a board, not only did they cut the length of meeting time, but they said we're only going to meet every other month. So our next meeting will be October 26th, and we will be, I think, at some point, welcoming our president to come visit the KTEC board to, we'll give you another day or two. As I heard you identify all the things and places you've been, and you've been here 30 days?
Just about.
So that's about how many a day? Well done.
That it? Good. Our next agenda item is old business, and I've never seen that where we have none. But we have no old business to deal with tonight, so. Our new business, tab 1, is on leases. Chris Martin. Let me preface Chris's remarks. For some time, he and I and President Dunlap before, and now President McLennan have talked about the fact that historically, a lot of the leases have been dealt with administratively. And that meant sometimes long-term leases, short-term leases, leases of all types. And it's been my view, quite frankly, that long-term leases, leases having to do with interest in land, should be something that is addressed specifically to the board. And we're in the process of developing a policy, and I don't know if you're going to talk about that tonight or not, but we're going to try and develop a policy as to at what level do the leases that are presented to the college, or should they be treated with, administratively, so they just go through the president's office, and at what level should they be presented to the trustees? And my personal view is that when we start talking about interest in real property, whether they're leases or sales or acquisitions or whatever, they all ought to be through the trustees. So that sort of brought this topic onto the agenda today. So, Chris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. That's exactly correct. So our practice has not followed best practice, and so this is an attempt to bring us in alignment with best practice and better practice in bringing all real estate leases before the board. And so in reviewing these as we enter the next fiscal year, these are the leases that we currently are involved in. I'm happy to speak to those specifically, but what you'll note as you go through the leases, many of these are continuing leases that we've done for many years, and with great partners, our outreach centers, the counties, and the Silver Valley Development District. They are the actual landowners for those. And then Friends of Head Start. Friends of Head Start actually owns several of the Head Start centers, and we lease directly from Friends of Head Start for the centers that we do not own or manage. And so I'm happy to speak to those individually, but these were all approved, the financials were all approved in the FY17 budget process.
Is there a motion? Yeah, go ahead. Let's see if we got a motion to approve them, and then we'll have a discussion on the motion.
Oh, okay. Well then, yeah, because I have some questions too. So I'd like to make a motion that the board authorize the board chair to execute one-year renewals of the following leases as presented. And they're listed. I don't need to list them out, do I?
But why don't you read them out so we
All
have
right.
it for the record.
OPRB Center, Bonners Ferry Outreach Center, Silver Valley Outreach Center, Lakeland Head Start Center, Julian Birch Head Start Center, Shoshone Head Start Center, Sandpoint Head Start Center.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, now, is there some discussion?
Yeah, discussion, question. And not to get anybody nervous with the question, but Chris, I'm curious, OPRV, originally that was a program that was identified to be in the new facility. And that was part of the consolidation because it and welding have had external leases. And OPRV had to be moved. It was over by the landfill, and we got it at a better location, but still, there was a point of having to pay a lease, and now this program has been under evaluation, I would suggest, over the last year or two to determine its future. We're renewing the lease, so at least for a year. So, okay, so we've determined for at least one more year it has a future. Can you elaborate on that at all? I'm kind of wondering where we are with the OPRV, because we got a beautiful facility. At some point, if we're going to keep it, it needs to get with the others.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
Trustee Banducci, Mr. Chair, the OPRV facility was renewed for 1 year.
because it wasn't able to be put into the new facility in the planning process. At that same time, the college went through an institutional review, institutional optimization, and that program has been determined to be in a teach-out phase. And so we didn't want to move that program, knowing that we were in the process of teaching that program out. At the same time, there was not a place to put it on campus with Headland until the CTE moves were complete. And so that's why this is being brought to you for a one-year lease.
Follow on, sir. Okay, so as a teach-out, these would be all second-year students, and we would not have admitted any new first-year students this year?
I'm going to ask Dr. Burns to help me clarify that, but I believe this is a one-year program.
That's what I'm, okay.
Trustee Banducci, Chair Howard. Chris is correct. It is a one-year program, so the students who are entered in the program this year will complete their program next May. In addition, our catalog for this academic year reflects that we are in a teach-out program, so that students who might have been interested would have the notification, and it's also on all our websites, would have the notification that this program is being discontinued, and so they would not be pursuing any prerequisites or any intentions towards entering into this program next fall of 17.
Any other questions? Yes, Chris.
Mr. Chair, my question is, all the leases that have been pulled together, is it routine that our attorney, Mark Lyon, Mark, do you look these over and review and give your blessing on, have you been involved in this?
Yes, we have, my office has been involved, and I've reviewed some of them, and Megan has reviewed others, and so we have done this kind of over the years, and we've made some suggestions and adjustments over the years. Some of them we did not draft the original leases, but we did tailor them as they've evolved over the years.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, if no more discussion, call for a vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the leases as identified?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the leases are approved.
Howard, can I ask one more question, sir?
Yes, sure. Chris?
Hey, Lita, with the advertising that we did, obviously to keep people from doing the prerequisites and knowing timeline, did we end up having anybody that came in because they'd only done like one semester and or want to come back and pick it up? Do we see that sort of thing in this circumstance?
Trustee Banducci, Chair Howard, that certainly can happen. We are not aware of any of those students. Actually, we looked back at student files to see if we had anybody sort of in line that could come back. We didn't identify any, but certainly if they do, by requirements of State Board of Education rules, we would be required to teach them out in some manner, and we have the capability to do that if we do find a student who would request that.
Well, I was just curious if we had a contingency for that, and if anybody had surfaced, you know, started it at some point and went, oh, got to get it done. Okay.
Yes, Judy?
One other observation, the leases that we looked at here have to do not only with Head Start, but also other communities where we do outreach. And I think it's important to emphasize the fact here in Bonners Ferry and the Silver Valley, those outreach centers. Chris, you said the communities have been very helpful and receptive and cost-effective in what we're doing. So to me, it's another demonstration of the partnership that we want to have with all the communities, and that we as a board have advocated. We can't afford to go out to some of these communities unless they help pitch in. And it's a testimony, I think, to understanding that we're providing a good service, and if we aren't or miss something, we learn from it and we get better at it. So I like the idea of the partnerships.
The next agenda item is salary schedules policy. I ask that this be put on the agenda because as we do our budgets for the last couple of years, we have had discussions on the step and column policy that we utilize here. Some years we have followed that, some years we haven't followed that, but there's always been some discussion about whether or not that's a policy that we should continue. And my understanding is that it was initially developed because we had fallen so far behind in a competitive way that we needed a way to catch up and to keep up with the competition and the appropriate compensation for the employees here at NIC. So what I'd like to do is have the trustees discuss for a moment. What we have talked about before is directing the administration to engage in a review of the salary policy so that next year, when we get to the budgeting process, that we have gone through an analysis of not just the policy, but how we stand in terms of whether it should be replaced, whether it should be modified, and how we stand in terms of the policy with regard to other institutions. So, having said that that's the purpose for it, yeah, I really think that the administration probably needs a motion directing them to investigate the salary schedules policy, if we're going to do that. Judy?
And Mr. Chair, as part of that motion, probably we ought to think about a timeline, because as we head for budgeting by, how we're using it, well, you all are doing it long before we are, but March, April, do you need those numbers by then? Then I would probably do a motion that says, Mr. President, would you gather up the information we, as a board, need to understand where we are and what we ought to be doing, and then we'll try and figure out a way to make it happen.
By what date? By what date?
I'm just thinking out loud, I'm reading lips. First of
JANU.
1st of January.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
no, I'm not seconding that motion. I
would have been surprised.
well, I guess I didn't really even understand the agenda item, so there was nothing that accompanied it, so I didn't have anything to review. I'm not sure what we're trying to accomplish just yet. It just seems like out of the blue. And so you say replace or modify existing policy, that's a pretty big deal.
Could be, or it may be that we justify the existing policy. That's why I think we need to do the investigation. Every year we go through
I
it.
second it so we can continue the discussion. Didn't surprise you there either, did it?
No,
That's
it
right.
didn't.
In Owens County.
Mr. Chairman, I can't even begin to, taking us back a year ago, when we had this big discussion about salary, we had no comparative and competitive analysis done. Now we have a STEP program that says that they get a step after they get their increases and the cost of living increases. We have to blow this whole thing up and build it up to where it makes some sense. This arbitrary STEP program that's been in place, as you said, some years we use it, some years we don't, some year we give a cost of living. It just seems like it's all Mod Podge put together, doesn't make any sense. So definitely that there has to be an in-depth review of salary and compensation across the board of the faculty and administration in the state of Idaho and nationally.
Okay, so discussion.
So we have a second, and yes, a discussion.
Discussion,
Yes.
thank you. Well, and
I take it you have something you want to discuss.
yeah, every time we talk about this during the budget cycle after meet and confer, I've been the one saying we're not following policy. And so it has been a sore point. If we have policy, we should follow it. I don't mind looking at it. I think that it needs to be all-inclusive, and this just kind of came out of the blue. But I am open to looking at anything that helps us come to good decisions. I just want us to be mindful that we need to take quite a bit of input and understand how it impacts people. And if we decide to continue on with our policy, there was a reason it was put in place, then we need to honor that, instead of just willy-nilly, this year we'll honor it, this year we won't. So.
Yes, Todd.
I'm of the mind that I support the review, and I would like to see, I think, the current program revisited and a new system set up. I would like the ability on a year-to-year basis for the board to determine what we think is appropriate based on the economic conditions of the community, of our area, of our region, of the country, of our enrollment, of our fiscal soundness. I don't like the idea of a prescribed, predetermined, we have to do this every year. It is a problem if we don't follow it on a consistent basis. So I personally would not like to be hamstrung by that and tied to that. So I would like to do away with the current matrix that's there and have the trustees review this on an annual basis with the president's cabinet and the input. And so I'd like to see it reviewed, and I would like to see the policy redone myself. So I do support that. I'd like the flexibility and the freedom for the board to make those decisions annually.
We've had some discussion, and we've had a motion and a second, and President, let me, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to ask to clarify, just because I'm trying to take notes.
That's exactly what I was going to, hang on before you do that.
Okay.
Let me ask President McLennan, do you have enough information here to engage in this review process? Do you get have you got a sense of the breadth of the review? Do you need more definition to it?
Well, I've read the policy, and I think I understand the issues associated with the concern has been expressed here. It has been discussed in President's Cabinet as an ongoing concern as well in terms of the budget timing. My, just a couple just general comments since you asked. I will say that in an academic institution, it's not just traditional, it's important to have some certainty for your professional workforce to understand how they can progress through rank. And so the feature of rank is, long held in higher education. It does appear to be automatic but only if certain things happen, of which we've determined we desire an outcome, and if an outcome is achieved, then something happens. So there's some pretty stable features there that are pretty important if you want to. If our desire is quality instruction and quality workforce. So I do understand the automatic feature of it that's of concern. I think a review that involves the appropriate constituents throughout the institution to look at best practices, to really take a good look at what's accessible. I mean, this is a policy that hasn't been reviewed for some time. Makes sense that it be reviewed now. I would just ask the board to remain open to what the outcome of that review would look like, and we'll talk. The other concern that I have, we've sort of limped along now for many years with this discussion. I've not been a part of those discussions. I think I understand how they've gone. So to come up with a comprehensive replacement in our academic world, in the way that policy moves through governance consideration by January is going to be nearly impossible. I mean, we can try to accelerate it, but I want to manage expectations here. I don't think we're going to get there, but I do think that the review should begin, and I'm very confident that we can put the process together to do that appropriately.
Okay. And let me make sure that I think the breadth of what we're asking you to do is not just the policy, but also an investigation of where we stand within the region and within nationally in terms of the salary structures. And so it's policy as well as, I think, how we compare with sister institutions.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
What sort of funding are you attaching to that? Are you looking for a salary study? I mean, I don't know how you could do much with just a quick phone call. How in-depth are you proposing?
Well,
So I'm sorry, may I?
No, please.
Excuse me. So those are two separate issues, a salary study and then a process for moving through salary. But we do get data annually, at least within the state of Idaho, and I believe there's a regional slice of that data as well. I don't think it would be too difficult to at least do some work on the comparison without going into a full-blown hire a consultant to do a salary study. Others at the table in front, if that's incorrect, please let me know. Okay.
Okay. Yes.
As a motion maker, I think what we've done is make a motion, not too much commotion, but in that process, I think as a board member, we are open to take a look at it, bring back to us where are the barriers, explaining that it can't all be done at once, that's okay. A plan for how we get hold of this and at what levels. Policy level is one that we talked about. The other would be actual numbers. And I think those can come in different levels at different times. Probably for now, it was to begin to get that on the table, get it on your list of things to look at, and even updates along the way that say, I learned this and this, and so now we need to regroup. This is fine with me as a board member to make it effective with your time and energy amongst all the things that you'll be managing.
Mark, you had some concerns about the motion, the content of it.
Yeah, I would just wanted to clarify it. I guess as I understand it, it's a motion to request the administration to provide information to the board about the salary schedule policy so that it can be reviewed and evaluated. Is it more than that?
Yeah, I think it's more than that, also to make recommendations. I mean, not just to review it, but to make recommendations to the extent that maybe we should keep it as it is, maybe it should be modified, maybe it should be replaced, whatever. I mean, until we get, I think we need to give them a broad authorization to take a look at it. So that's my understanding of the motion. Yes.
President?
Follow up on Trustee Meyer's comment. I think that there would likely be a variety of models that we would want to expose the board to along the way to let you know how this thinking is progressing.
We are an educational institution, so you can educate us.
Right. So the motion is to authorize the administration to engage in a study on the salary policy and salary statistics. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. The board chair report. As with everybody else, since we don't have a July meeting, it's nice to be able to come back and not have to report on very much. We did have a nice meeting with the foundation, which was a social event that we have each year. Gives the board an opportunity to say thank you to the foundation members for all the efforts that they put into helping to support NIC. They put in, and particularly with the capital campaign that they're engaged in, and they're really dedicated to it, and they've done a great job with the $4.3 million, or at least a significant portion of that. We have an upcoming meeting in September with the presidents and chairs of the other institutions. Idaho Tech, which is the technical college down in Idaho Falls, has been talking for some time about becoming a community college. They've engaged people in doing a study, and they've got a lot of community members working on the project, and it looks like it might really take place, which would mean we'd have a fourth community college here in Idaho, which, although Idaho Tech has been there for a long time, it has not served as a community college. It served as a kind of a technical training place for the INEL. So this would broaden the mandate of that institution, and that's really kind of an exciting thing. The president of the Idaho Technical Institute has been meeting with us at our meetings with the presidents and chairs for the last year, and so I just report to you that that's been we keep getting updates on it, and it has really been a kind of an exciting thing to see them move in that direction. Then last night, I think it was last night, we had a meeting with the legislators. A number of legislators met with us down at Emory's, and were able to greet President McLennan and say hello and to get to know everybody. And the President's Council showed up, and a number of the staff, and it was a good opportunity to meet with the legislators in an informal way and say we need your help. So those are the three things that I can think of that I need to report to you on. Judy?
Just to follow up on that, then, your discussion about the community college and Eastern Idaho Technical College, I think is exciting. Coincidentally, I was in Idaho Falls this summer doing some economic development learning, education, and visiting with the legislators there about that opportunity for a fourth community college. And the sense seems to be it may be time for that to happen, as you're describing. So I commend the community colleges for including our Eastern Idaho Tech president as beginning to weave that together. And I think it's good for the state and good for community colleges. The larger coordinated system helps, I think, community colleges be recognized on their own. It's not just lightweight four-year institutions. They're very valuable in their own way. And sometimes that's an ongoing educational process for, I think, some of our legislators and the state to see that community colleges are just great. So thank you for continuing that process, and I'm optimistic that we may in Boise in January have a chance to help tell more story about that.
Thank you, Ken.
Yes.
I am curious, this may not be the time to share it, but as you guys are in these initial discussions and kind of in the preliminary phase of them becoming a junior college. I wonder what conversations are accompanying that regarding the various funding mechanisms, including out-of-district tuition. You know, right now CWI is getting money kind of out of the governor's piggy bank and his own pot of money. CSI and us are splitting some money. It's an interesting thing as we go down and brief JFAC, which we'll do again in January. So how overarching is the look right now for that entire funding model, and are there legislators that are involved in those discussions as we see what the House or the Senate might introduce to start working on some of that? Or is that we're not quite to that point yet?
In terms of doing something about it, no, we're not to that point yet, because they're not, they haven't decided yet what their millage rate was going to be, how much local property taxes they're going to have, how their tuition program is going to work. But we have talked about the fact that they likely would fall into line with the other community colleges in terms of getting some state support and what that state support should look like. And so far, the community colleges are of a single mind that do no harm to the existing funding mechanisms or levels, so that our hope is that when they bring out another community college, that they'll increase, right, the funding, and it will, ultimately, we have to have a uniform state funding mechanism. It's not uniform now. And so this may actually initiate more discussions about taking CWI's special situation and taking the Eastern Idaho Technical College, if they're going to call it that, I don't know, and making a singular funding mechanism for all the community colleges that's equal. But the effort is that the existing community colleges should not be hurt in terms of state funding by bringing this new community college on board. That's the extent of the discussion.
What's the initial look of this or anticipation for how many counties will its taxing district consist of, and how many counties will comprise its service area for us? You know, we have one district and 5 counties that we service, and of course different for the other 2. What's the footprint of this or the reach of this? What's it looking like?
Yeah, I don't think that's been determined yet. The last I talked to them, they were trying to determine what the taxing district should be. As you know, it's the statute requires a vote of the members, the voters in the district that they encompass. Now, is it going to be Bonneville County and Bingham County, I think, over there? I'm not sure. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman and Trustee Banducci, the preliminary discussions are, according to statute, you have to have 3 contiguous school districts in order to form a community college with a threshold of a certain student population. Bonneville County meets that, and so the proposed district will be Bonneville County alone. They're looking at a May 17 election, but any discussions on a funding model through the state are preliminary at the very, very best until that vote takes place.
Right. All right. That concludes the board chair's report. I'm going to take something a little out of order. I want to go to the last item on our agenda, and that's to thank Ron for his service. Ron's indicated his resignation is effective. I'm not sure. Do you have a date on the specific, Ron?
August 31st.
August 31st.
Next week.
Okay. And I, for one, want to thank Ron very much for his service on this board. Over the last 3.5 years, maybe almost 4 years, we've had a lot of disagreements, and they've been healthy disagreements. They've been good disagreements. We've had a lot of discussion, and we've opened up areas to talk about that some people maybe didn't want to talk about, but when we talked about them, we found that it was a healthy conversation. You've been part of that, and you have triggered some of those. And I want to thank you for your participation, and I want to thank you for your helping us look at ourselves again, because that's always a healthy thing. For us to sort of, from time to time, take a step back and take a look at who we are and what we've done and why we're doing things. So, for my own part, I'd like to offer you those thanks, and I'm going to miss you. I'm still going to disagree with you, but I'm going to miss you.
The joke between Ken and I is 2 and 2 is 4.
No, it's not.
That's right.
All right. So anyway, I wanted to take that opportunity, and I know the other trustees may want to say something to Ron, but, and then we'll go to the remarks for the good of the order and then close this out. But I do want to take this opportunity to spend a few minutes expressing our thanks to you, Ron. Anybody else want to make some comments?
I told Ron I was going to talk for, he's getting out of here way too early. I'm just going to talk for a while. You know, it is really hard to actually say goodbye to you. When we started together, you know, we had some misconceptions about each other, and some of our dear friends helped feed that a bit, probably. But it's been a pleasure getting to know you and Pam for what generous people you really truly are. You're kind people. And I have so much fun sparring with you sometimes because when we walk out the door, we're still buddies. And it's good for me, I know, to learn how other people in the world think and see things and the experiences they've had. It has been good for me. It's challenged me as a board member to be much more open and look through a larger lens. And so I'm really going to miss that. I'm going to miss this back and forth we have that is in good spirit, but also get some good work done. But that doesn't mean that you're not buying me a margarita from time to time and that we're not going to hang out. So, Ron, I'm sorry to see you go. I understand that you need to focus on business. You got a lot on your plate, but it's just not going to be the same without you.
Todd, do you?
All I'm going to say is Ron knows pretty well how I feel, and he's my friend and my brother.
Judy?
I was thinking, as Christy was describing that, here I am in the middle. Thanks, Christy. I appreciated hearing ideas on both sides, many sides, and your effort, Ron, to highlight areas that were important to you, that made us think about it, is valuable. That's what board members do, and I appreciate you doing that. And particularly your work with K-Tech. It obviously, hopefully, has brought great satisfaction to you for the fruition that's come about. It only gets better from here, so thank you for that, and we wish you well on all the other projects. I know you've been very generous in the community. I think the Boys and Girls Club is your biggest one right now that you're working on. Isn't that to come up now this fall?
Yeah, ribbon cutting's next week.
This is the Coeur
Couple
d'Alene
The new one, right.
facility. So it's not as if you won't be doing things. We just thank you for taking time to share with us.
So, Ron, I know you probably don't have anything to say, but I'm going to invite you to say something anyway.
I'll make an exception here and say something for you. Before I chose to come onto this board, I watched a number of board meetings, and I didn't understand why the healthy debate and a vote that they stood at 3-2 and were willing to stand in that discussion. So when I came on here, I made a commitment that I'm going to say what I believe and defend what I believe, and then sometimes have to surrender that I was not on the winning side. When I came here, I thought the word community should be put back in North Idaho Community College. There's a lot of people like me that feel that way. This community is the most loving, giving community I've ever been around before. So when you isolate yourself from where the community feels a part of this, I thought that was a sad state to be in. So my goal was to say is, why don't we just put the C back in North Idaho Community College? We need to have a strong voice representing the private sector, the taxpayers, and when we don't have that, they feel alienated. And so we got to remember, as our students are the most important thing when we're here. You don't exist if we don't have students. Our community has a need for a community college. That's why they support it at a tune of $15 million a year, is to support that effort. And the business needs a skilled and trained workforce to hire. So if we don't have the students, the businesses, and the community there, will continue to live in a bubble. And I'm not suggesting that that's the case. But our education system as a whole continues to fail our kids. not the teachers. Our system fails our kids. When 80% of our kids, we just read a book on behalf of LEDA that says 80% of our kids walk into a community college with a goal, their bare minimum goal to have is a bachelor's degree. And the statistics are sad. When 15% of the people that set their goal that high achieve that after 6 years, that means 85% failed to achieve their goal. Why is that? I don't believe it's all in the back of the student. I think that sometimes the community, sometimes the institution, and sometimes we don't show the value. I don't know how you measure success in a community college, but I would surely think that when you start talking about success and how you measure success at college has to come with the cost of education. I think free education is wrong. I believe a cost of education, a reasonable cost of education makes sense. I think graduation rate is a very important part. When we only graduate 15% in the first 2 years and 22% after 3 years, I still think that we can do much better. There's other colleges that do better than us. And as the newspaper pointed out, we rank in the bottom 15% of community colleges in the nation. We have to work on that. But the number one thing that most students come to this institution for is to get a job, to get an education that advances their earning potential so that they can get a job, get a house, have kids, and live the life that we live today. And our placement rate, we have to be able to do a better job of doing that. So when I look at this, I came here with that in the beginning. That was always my mission, was to come here and to do that. And I think that I've had some effect on being able to show this community that this institution is exactly where it needs to be, is in the heart of the community, and I'm making a commitment. I'm continue to be a part of this community and to help this institution. So,
Ron, thank you very much. Are there any other comments? I have one other thing that's, it's a requirement before everybody leaves the room. There's cake in the back of the room, and it must be consumed before you leave. So, and we want to say it's a small token of our, I think our sadness, Ron, in seeing you go, but if the cake, I don't know if you've seen it back there, but it says thank you very much for all the services you provided to our community and to this college. So with that, I'll invite any remarks for the good of the order. Judy?
That's
Go
right,
ahead.
Christie, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, Ron is sworn off cake, so I get his cake.
Oh, okay.
I'm having his.
Judy?
One other housekeeping thing, and that was to be sure and highlight the Coeur d'Alene Press's Business Journal. I think it was yesterday's issue, again mentioned IBE, Idaho Business for Education. And as you know, I've been active in that because I think that business correlation that you just talked about, Ron, is one that we all believe in. And there's another article here about what better education would mean to Idaho. So it's right on task. Though that group that we heard from earlier this year, Bob Locken, will be back up to meet with the community again in the fall. Again, more engagement from Northern Idaho businesses and a statewide organization. And coincidentally, from that, the IBE group, the vice chair, Andy Scoggin, has just been appointed to the State Board of Education. So again, I think there'll be some good linkage with business and the State Board understanding the value of community colleges.
Yes, Todd?
Real quick, I had the privilege of attending the Veterans event, and was really pleased to see our president there, and a chance to visit with him and some of our PC. I appreciate them attending. Thank you. A little bit of a shout out to Carl George and the work that he's doing. It was nice to see that we've started to integrate more with Lewis and Clark State and with U of I. They both had tables and booths and representatives there. We're trying to reach out to the veterans in all three of those institutions here on our joint campus. Tim Gerlitz was there. Appreciate his efforts. The veterans are a unique group and have some unique needs and have had some unique experiences. So it was nice to see a lot of teamwork and resources and the group that was assembled there to greet them and meet them, and trying to increase the participation of the veterans on campus. With that group, there's a real fellowship there amongst those people, and they garner strength from one another. So there's a shout out to anybody that's listening or anybody that knows anybody to encourage them to engage with that group. They got a great little spot down in the basement, and the coffee pot's on, and people there that are there to listen and to just to be there. So I just wanted to recognize that and the effort that's being done to welcome our vets and to make them feel accommodated.
Thank you. Any other comments for the good of the order? Hearing none, we are adjourned.